Hi, everybody. We made it. 3 streams this week. Huzzah! We have some pretty good stories. I kind of had to cheat and talk about the Invincible season finale, but I think some of you will be very happy with that decision. So thank you very much for joining me on a Friday. I am reviewing Black Bag. That review is actually all ready to go and uploaded, and it will debut later this afternoon. Michael. Wow, Michael, that's so generous of you. Thank you so much. And welcome back, Amber. Wow. Making it rain, Michael. Making it rain. If you would like to be able to get a membership, all that you need to do is just make sure that you turn on receiving gifts. Thanks for joining, Ben. And then also, the more you interact with this channel, the more likely it is for YouTube to give you a membership. I don't choose who they go to. All right, so we have 3 really great stories today. I'm excited about all of them. Please keep your questions and comments to the story at hand. At the end of each section, I will answer your questions and comments about that story. But then at the very end of the live stream, as always, you can ask me anything. All right, here we go. Story number 1. Invincible's in the middle there, Noel. See, that's always in the order that they're going to go. Thanks, Bubbles. They're always in the order that they're going to go. Okay. Sorry, you're going to have to listen to some Ted Lasso, Noel, but I appreciate your enthusiasm. Don't worry, I got a lot to say about Invincible. We will have our conversation. All right, that's right. Time to boop it. Hold on. Whew, so many pictures to go past. Okay, story number 1. Boop. Okay, Ted Lasso. Ted Lasso season 4. Part of me likes to think maybe it's because of Severance's huge success, surpassing Ted Lasso, thanks to being a longer show. Severance episodes are longer than Ted Lasso's were, at least for the first 2 seasons. Ted Lasso eventually became an hour episode, basically a show. But because Severance has so much longer episodes, it has surpassed with 2 seasons, even before it completed its 2nd season, all 3 seasons of Ted Lasso to become Apple's most watched show. Ooh! And so part of me wonders if they were like, oh, we can't let that stand. We're coming back. But no, I think that's not. I mean, there were rumors about a season 4 of Ted Lasso when they were doing season 3, when they were promoting that. Everyone's like, you coming back for more? And, people were torn as to whether or not they wanted the show to return. And it seemed like Jason Sudeikis was torn. But he said this today. Where did he announce this? In the strangest of places, Travis Kelce and Jason Kelce's podcast, which makes me wonder, will either of them show up on the show? I would bet you well, I don't want to actually bet any money, but I would bet you, yes, just fake money, that they're going to be on the show, which I think people have mixed feelings about. I'd be cool with Jason Kelce being on it, but come on, Travis. It seems a little bit more about Travis than the show if he were to do it. So he announced it on their podcast this morning, and he said they've been writing it. They've been writing the episodes for a while now, and they're wrapping up. So clearly, well, I don't know. Well, you can't write all those episodes in the amount of time that Severance has aired so far, but I'm sure that lit a bit of a fire under them. Now, one of the things that was announced, which I was really surprised about, and I got to tell you, I would have told them not to do it, because I don't think that they need that negative energy right now. I only would be okay with them doing it if they did it right. And I don't know if they're going to do it right. Ted Lasso is like, for my 4th act, I shall step into the middle of a bleep storm. All right, so they're going to have Ted Lasso coaching a women's team. Now, obviously, that's a really big can of worms. And you can see that Trump 2.0 is one of the topics that we're going to discuss. But yes, the setup is that Ted Lasso is going to coach a female team. Look at Alberto. The business exec in me had the same reaction, Alberto. Okay, but what about the returning cast members, right? Well, they are coming back. Hannah Waddingham, Brett Goldstein, and Jeremy Swift are all signed to return. Hannah Waddingham, of course, is Rebecca, the owner of the team. Brett Goldstein is Roy Kent. Jeremy Swift is the guy who works, who does like the financials. And then Brendan Hunt, of course, will be there as coach because he's the co-writer of the team. That's right, Sophia. I don't see no names of people who are players. And perhaps the whole team is going to switch to women players. I'm sure that these actors would maybe have a cameo. Maybe not everybody was available. And this is, instead of creating new male characters, they decided to switch the entire team. It's a very, very risky decision. I mean, it certainly shakes things up, but I don't know if it's going to shake it up in the right direction. Okay, we'll do a poll. I don't care, Bear. What do you think of Ted Lasso coaching a women's soccer team? Great idea. Then wouldn't be my choice. Oh, let's just do not a fan of it. Not a fan of this. So we want to be polite. Then there's business mistake. Like, you're fine with it, but business-wise, you're like, not a good idea. And then, I don't watch Ted Lasso. Which seems to be the case for some of you. Okay, so by the way, anyone watching can vote in a poll. You do not have to be a member to vote in a poll, or even a subscriber. If you're watching right now, you can click on that box and you can vote. Let me get rid of the Kelseys. They're like, no, keep us. Okay, and Juno Temple, by the way, they're not sure about Juno Temple coming back. Juno Temple has not signed her deal yet, and probably means she's going to get a lot of money. Because how can you have an all-female team and no Keeley? That would seem stupid. So I think they're going to make sure that works out. Then they did say in the trades that the rumor is that they're going to start out the season in Kansas because, of course, Ted went home. But they're pulling him back in. There's a reason for him to go back because they're filming primarily in the UK and all these other actors are returning. And they plan to start filming in July, which means that Ted Lasso will probably come out 2026. I think that if I were Apple TV, the studio is going to be a big awards contender for them. And Hacks, of course, season 4 is about to go. So I wouldn't want Ted Lasso competing with those two. Oh no, Hacks is Mac, so what does Apple TV care? But Severance, of course. So Apple TV for the next award season is going to have Severance, and they're going to have the studio. Oh, thank you, Gareth. Oh, you changed your name. But I think you changed the second half of it. By the way, side note, I started to watch Mid-Century Modern. It's not as good as Golden Girls, but, it makes me think of Golden Girls, so I kind of like it for that reason. That's the new, where they switched it out for 3 gay men living together with Nathan Lane's mother to kind of recreate the Golden Girls. That's a sitcom. It's dropping on Hulu, I think, later this month. But yeah, so anyway, what was I saying? I got distracted with the generosity of Gareth. What was I saying? Catch me up. Oh yes, the award season. Thank you very much. You guys are great. So yes, with the award season, I think that they're not going to want to have Ted Lasso come in there, right? I mean, either it's going to wipe away and kill Severance. All Severance would be in a different category, but no one's going to want to give all the candy to Apple TV or all the gold. So it would hurt Severance. It would hurt the studio. So I think they're going to wait and probably have it come out for the following award season. So, but it's coming, and that's very exciting. Can they wait 3.5 years? All right, let's talk about Ted Lasso during Trump 2.0. Now, of course, Ted Lasso came out during the first Trump administration, and Jason Sudeikis has even said that that's one of the reasons that he made Ted Lasso such a nice guy to be the antithesis of what he felt Donald Trump was. And so the show, many people said, not only was it one of the reasons that Ted Lasso blew up the way that it did was that it came out during the pandemic, and it also came out, Ivan, the studio starts March 26th. But Ted Lasso came out during the pandemic, it came out during the first Trump administration, and everybody just felt like really, it made a lot of people like it was their happy place. And, they're like, oh, when people are being so mean, this is the time that we can, focus on positivity and being nice. And so that's kind of what Ted Lasso became. But this time, Trump 2.0 and his followers are going to be ready for Ted Lasso. So, well, yes, it ran even to the Biden administration. That's right, Mika, because they did go to the White House. Remember Mitt Romney dressed up as Ted Lasso, and everyone was like, take it off! It's very tough. Ted Lasso is very much finding himself in the political space. Sometimes intentionally so. So, now there are a couple of things that they have to think about here. Now, obviously, there's, let's see here. Megan Rapinoe. Megan Rapinoe is, I think, probably the most famous women's soccer player in the world right now, or at least to the United States. And she is very proudly LGBTQ. And in fact, a spokesperson, very much so for the community. And so that's a big part, in fact, of not just, women's sports overall, but also women's soccer. So, it would be really bad if Ted Lasso did not address this. Some people talk about the fact that there are probably a lot of closeted male athletes, but they don't feel comfortable enough coming out to the degree. Ian McKellen was actually just talking about this. He had a good comment. He said the first male gay soccer player to come out would probably get tons of advertising deals and fans on social media. And so he said, I don't know what they're waiting for. But, it's obviously a very complex situation. And it's easy for Ian McKellen to say that because it worked out so well for him. But it doesn't always work out so well for everyone else. So it's still a very personal decision. There are some actors who just don't officially come out, but are very open in their way they present themselves and their behavior. They don't hide anything. And that's an interesting new approach that we're seeing. So I think it would be, I didn't know that, President Progressive. It's interesting that you would bring that up, being progressive, that there are open men in German soccer. That's very interesting. But, certainly not to the level that they've become a global sensation. And I think that's kind of what, like Megan Rapinoe, I think that's kind of what Ian McKellen is referring to. But there's another issue that I think the show would have to address this. And this is trans athletes in women's sports. It's a big deal. And you can see that FIFA is already, that's the soccer organization here in the United States. I think is that the United States or global? Not a soccer fan, sorry. But, FIFA is already in conflict with Donald Trump because of the ban on trans players in women's sports that he's enacted. I think he's only done it at the school level. Look, Astronomy 360 is confused like myself, but everybody says it's global. Hey, Fabby. So I think that, I think this is going to put Ted Lasso season 4 on a direct collision course. Before it was an alternative, but now they're going to be like, let's go, Trump. And if I were Apple TV, I'd be like, why are you doing this to me? As Michael Jordan said, conservatives buy sneakers too, and they also can subscribe to Apple Plus or Apple TV. So I think they're going to be in a difficult spot. I think, Duarte says, why would they touch that subject? I'm not quite sure what you're saying there, but I think they have to. I think they would lose the support of the soccer community and soccer fans if they didn't touch on this, especially because Ted Lasso has always been a show that's historically gone there. Like for 3 seasons, they've dealt with the difficult subjects. They're very much about how do you feel? How are you doing? What's bothering you? Very much became a show about the importance of mental health. So how on earth are they not going to address these issues? So I see issues for the show. And, maybe they feel it'll help it. I mean, some shows have thrived off of that, like Stephen Colbert, John Oliver, The Daily Show, but they're already kind of in those spaces. Ted Lasso is supposed to be an escape. And as you can see, a number of conservatives have enjoyed the show, at least in the earlier seasons. Like Mitt Romney wanted to dress up as Ted Lasso, and he wanted to do that for a reason. So I'll be curious to see the direction that they decide to go in. Let me see what you guys voted for here. Okay. All right, so what do you think of Ted Lasso coaching a women's soccer team? 49% of you don't watch Ted Lasso. You're just waiting for that Invincible story. I appreciate your patience. We'll get to it in a minute. 27% of you think it's a great idea. 12% of you feel it's a business mistake. And then 10% of you are not a fan of this decision. So only 27% of you are excited. And so I think I just feel like Ted Lasso, because it's already an Apple TV show, can't afford to shed any more viewers. So let's see what they decide to do. I think it's always hard when you totally, I think a women's soccer team maybe could be a spin-off show or a subplot. But I think totally changing what the show is going to be very difficult to do. I'll be curious to see if they can pull it off. So do you have any questions or comments about this story before we move on to Invincible? So the Invincible fans are like, shut up, don't say anything, you have no questions. That's like me and my family on the Vatican tour when they were like, anyone have any questions? We were so hot and tired. And we all turned to my dad and we were like, don't you dare ask a question, because my dad's like a big question guy. And so it didn't matter because someone else asked a question. Okay. Alberto says, but will Sudeikis commit to this because he chose to end the show and felt incredibly rushed? He's the one who announced it. I think he's going to commit to it. I think that he's doing it because he probably found out that he's got nothing else to do. I think he was like, I'm done with Ted Lasso. Let the offers roll in. And then there are crickets. And he was like, I better make another season of Ted Lasso. Hey, Devin. I like your avatar with Maleficent there. That looks pretty great. Sean says, did you see that Juno Hannah got Barbies of themselves? Did they? I'm going to Google that as soon as we're done. I don't have time to do it now. But I like that. I like that story a lot. I really am a big fan of both of them and their friendship of their characters on the show. Oh, yeah. You mean so no comic book spoilers about the future of Invincible. Okay, we can do that. Let's see here. Oh, Jose brings up Martha from Brazil, who is a big name. I'm sorry, I don't follow soccer. For someone would have to be such a big deal in soccer that they would jump the fandom and go into the mainstream consciousness. So yes, I'm glad to hear that Martha is a big star within the world of soccer, and I'm sure certainly in Brazil overall. And she is LGBTQ. Kareem says women's U.S. soccer, Kareem is not from the United States, so he's saying football, is a powerhouse so they could celebrate them and not get scared off. I hope so. I think you don't want the talk about the show to drown out the show itself. Klaus, that's a great question. I'm not sure if Ted Lasso is big outside of the United States. 47% of you don't watch it. Zeke, you're back. Let's see here. Grace, I gotta go. But before I do, I don't know why Ted Lasso Season 4 is doing what Disney already did with the Mighty Ducks. Oh, wow! I gotta tell you, Zeke, you got a lot of energy, Zeke, but sometimes you hit a real bullseye, and that's one of them. That's correct. That is very true. The Mighty Ducks, and I don't see no Mighty Ducks around anymore, do you? So I think that's a great comparison, Zeke. And somebody should go tweet that to Jason Sudeikis. But he's already written most of the episodes, so that sucks. I wish someone at Apple TV had been like, Emilio says, do you know who Messi is? The only person I know in soccer is, I forgot his name. It's the Italian player who headbutted that other person. Everyone was like, oh, foul play, he threw the game, and now he's a coach. That's the most, because I watched the World Cup that year. My friend called it the Battle of the Male Supermodels. We were like, this is ridiculous. It was fun. It was a good watch. Tim says, so happy for this news. Women's teams, fantastic idea. Feels like they are taking the time to let the story develop. It would be great to shine a light on women's athletes. Female sports, female athletes. Women's sports is getting a lot of attention these days. I'm not a big sports person, as you know, but of course, what's that basketball player who's really popular right now and has kind of elevated the sport even beyond the WNBA fandom? I think you're starting to see, and of course, there's always been the Williams sisters, so tennis kind of started it, and that's very exciting. And I think women athletes, go watch that Daisy Ridley movie when she swam the English Channel. That's an incredible film. an extremely successful and popular female athlete that nobody remembers today, sadly enough, but at least she got that movie. But it would be really great for the show to like have real female athletes on as guest stars. That would be great. But then does Ted Lasso become a public service announcement rather than the show that everybody loved? I mean, it's a really tough thing to do. Let's see here. Virginia says people outside the United States have no idea what we're talking about. Zeke, you're pushing your luck, man. I didn't think the Freaky Friday trailer looked good. That looked very Disney Plus. Oh, Wiki Nomad wants to know as well. I'm not going to cover it. I mean, I was going to, but it looks very bad to me. I was surprised how bad that trailer looked. Oh, look at Steve's. He's like, oh, please, for the love of God, boop out of here. Okay, let's boop. Boopity boop, boop, boopity boop. It's not a reboot, yeah, it's a sequel, but it still looks just awful. All right, let's talk about Invincible. Boop. Violent boop. Boop, 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 boop. Hey, Jonah Jameson. Hell, we see. Thank you so much. That's so kind of you. Thank you so much. All right, so people, now you want to talk about Invincible. Where have you been for a season and a half? People, there might be some spoilers, Alberto, but not too much. Okay, you can still watch the show. But yeah. Cristiano Ronaldo, by the way, Danny, I do get a lot of pictures. I've looked at one time Cristiano Ronaldo posted a photo on X where he smiled so brilliantly, I stopped for a moment, and now they feed me a bunch of photos of him because the algorithm was like, oh, like Ronaldo, do you? And I was like, there's a lot of Ronaldo. Okay. All right. So nice try, Poke. We're talking about Invincible. So yeah, let's go through this. So ratings. So I had to stop covering this show because nobody gave a crap about it. Season 1 was huge, but it was during the pandemic. Big show. Although, remember, it aired against Falcon and Winter Soldier. So people were a little late discovering how good Invincible was. It ran longer than Falcon and Winter Soldier. So once everybody finished Falcon and Winter Soldier, they went and ran over and discovered Invincible. And by the time it had its amazing, now iconic season finale, people were going nuts. But then it took a very long time for season 2 to come back, and they had it in 2 halves, and the show kind of cratered. And we were all like, is it dead? But no, it's very much alive because it's coming back like a mofo. In fact, it's in the Nielsen ratings. We talked about it last week on Movie Math. Spoiler alert, we're going to be talking about it on Movie Math this coming Sunday because it's still in the top 10. And so it's like doing really, really well. And I unfortunately made the decision not to cover this show. And I'm like, because, you never know what's going to be hot, and so you try to make the decisions based on the previous performance. It's interesting. Arcane also had a real problem with season 2, but this gives hope that perhaps going forward, it still can blow up like Invincible has. So the animation. A lot of people have been complaining about the animation. I feel rightly so. Let me put up the poster for the show. There's Cecil. I love Cecil. I love business, and he's like superhero business. Voiced so wonderfully by Walton Goggins. Arcane ended, but they said it's going to come back in a different kind of show. But they're still going to do more animation. But yeah, the animation on Invincible is pretty awful. They even made a joke about it in season 2, and they were like, yeah, we can't afford to move the background and stuff like that and do serious emotion. And everybody's often like, what am I watching? And I think even this season suffered from that a little bit for the first episodes. But then the final 2 episodes. Oh, it's not Christian Slater. Oh, poor A, we just blew your mind. That's Walton Goggins voicing Cecil. A very low energy Walton Goggins, which is funny. Amazon's not broke, J. Jonah Jameson. They just aren't giving a lot of money to this show. I mean, they just gave it all to the Broccoli's. They just gave them $1 billion, basically. Invincible's like, what the F? Can I have some money for my freaking animated show? And they're like, no, we gave $9 billion basically for Bond. That's so stupid. Oh, 8 billion. They're never going to get that money back. That's amazing. That's just shocking. Okay, because they paid like $7 billion for MGM to get Bond, and then the Broccoli's wouldn't let it go still, so they gave another $1 billion to pry their fingers off of it, and then that's how much they paid. That's nuts. All right, but the last 2 episodes here have been incredible. First, episode 7 was the Invincible War. They really kind of duplicated the action and the grandeur of the season 1 season finale. And I think that's one of the reasons this has gone so well. But yeah, so this was an incredible episode with episode 7 with the that's a good joke, Caliban. The broccolis now have some cheese on there. That's a great joke. That's a professional level joke, Caliban. You could sell that joke to a comedy for someone's opening monologue or something. That's very good. All right, so that was episode 7, and then episode 8, which you're seeing here, is against this really, really amazing character called Conquest. But everybody's talking about how Adam Eve really stepped up. Everybody's been saying, why are they hurting poor Adam Eve? Adam Eve had a special between seasons 1 and 2, and it was incredible. It was one of the most amazing episodes of animation with action sequences that I think many of us had ever seen. But then she's just going around throwing up, as people say, pink walls all the time on the show. But she stepped up yet again to defend her boo, Mark, against this nuts Viltrumite. So she steps up to take on Conquest, and she did a wonderful job. She still threw up a lot of pink walls in her, to be fair, but she came up with a lot of really clever, really clever elements to how they were fighting. I'm glad you liked my boo. Some of you don't know that they're together. Oh, they got together. I like that Garnet Fire's like, I should watch this again. Yeah, they don't do a very good job advertising the show, like, if at all. But it's been trending, and so I think people are, if you didn't watch it, you're going to now go binge it, and it's going to be an amazing binge for you. So this time she had some really cool moves. Very clever. Very, very clever stuff. That's right. She is very, Marduk, that's a great comparison. They Green Lanterned her. I mean, she has other things she can do as well, but when she's fighting, for the most part, I'd say 90% of her moves are very Green Lantern. And someone should tell that to James Gunn, although there's no way that HBO can afford to do this in live action, which sucks, because this is what Green Lantern should be doing. If Green Lantern did this, Marvel would be scared. Why is that always the way that DC never lives up to its potential? Hey, Yaya. That's right, Yaya. Who knows how long it's going to take to get season 4. So then, some of you haven't watched, and there's going to be slight darn it! I don't want to spoil it because some of you haven't watched it. But let's just say there was a cool development for Adam Eve, which was pretty neat. Although I had just recently reread the comics because I was enjoying the show so much, and I was like, let me go check the comic out again. So I'd literally just seen this story basically 2 weeks ago. So when I watched it, it was harder for me to get excited about it. So let's talk about that. All right. Now the show is insanely comics accurate. Now there was a line that everybody went crazy about, and I can't really totally say the line because not all of you have seen it, but it was a line from Mark, and everybody was like, oh my God. I even told it to a friend of mine who was like, that's pretty amazing. And they don't even like this stuff. So that, however, is an exact duplicate of the line, although you can see a lot more bloody, and it's even the same shot from the from the comic. And it's like if somebody did No More Mutants, okay, and they filmed it exactly like that, and people who didn't read House of M would be like, oh my God, that's incredible. Although I don't think No More Mutants is as good a line as this one. But I think that it would, it would be tough, I think it would, not be as exciting if you knew the lines as well as I think, apparently a lot of people have not read the Invincible comic. So you were totally blown away. But I was like, I just read that line a week ago. I was like, I just read that. So I was like, oh, they did the thing. I was like Ariana DeBose. I was like, they did the thing. There was a post-credit scene, and I think, again, I was like, I guess I'm glad it was not from the comic because I didn't remember it. I was like, I don't remember that, and I guess it's because it wasn't from the comic. But I want to talk about my problem with the show. I do have a slight problem with it, and that's that I think that it is too comics accurate. It's just the comic. And the comic is extremely good, I want to tell you, by the way. And I think it's an amazing adaptation of the comic. Usually when they do an animation adaptation of a comic, I'm like, please go read the comic. Like when DC does Batman Year One, I'm like, oh my God, read the comic. But, Invincible is actually a very, I'm sorry to say, with all due respect to the artist, I mean, he did it all by himself. But it's not like a particularly well-drawn comic, like it's the level of, let's say, the animation that you're looking at. But it's so well written and it's such a great story that you could do either one. You don't have to read the comic because you're basically watching it. It is such a one-for-one. It's like basically, you know what? This is interesting. You know how some people feel about shot-for-shot remakes, particularly with like some of the Disney animated movies? That's how I feel about Invincible. I'm like, there are some changes, Danny, but I'm like, it's the exact same thing. Like, I wish they would elevate it a little more or add some kind of like commentary more to it, some emotional stuff to it. But they're going at as fast a clip as the comic did. And I think that's fine. I mean, I think that the show is so quickly paced and so much is happening that you don't need to stop for the heavy beats. And that's fine. But it's weird. It makes it hard to cover a little bit because you're like, there's like almost nothing to cover except like how cool was that. And on that note, let's talk about how cool it is. It's very cool. I mean, even I was blown away by the final 2 episodes. I was like, damn, that's good. And I haven't seen animation action as good since Aang and Korra. That was amazing. All of us remember the action sequences of Avatar: The Last Airbender. And it's not just these two. Of course, we got to give credit to Toph, who is, of course, probably the best bender, even better than Avatars of all time. I mean, she invented metal bending, for Pete's sake. So to me, I'm glad that Mystic says it's the highest of praises. It is the high. I mean, I agree, and I mean it that way. And I'm glad that you see what I'm trying to say. Suave says, I basically gave you my thoughts anyway, but I appreciate your enthusiasm. I don't want to ruin it for somebody who hasn't seen the finale and if they haven't read the comics. Because I didn't mark this as spoilers. But again, I appreciate you. So many of us know what animated action can look like. And so you can see, I think that people are going as crazy over Invincible as they used to about Avatar. That's a really good comparison. Some of you might have not watched Avatar: The Last Airbender, didn't pay attention to, or weren't around, or were too young to remember when Avatar aired, because it was like 10 years ago. People were going as crazy over the Avatar episodes as they do over Invincible. So Avatar's coming back, baby. Well, whatever they're going to call it, because now we have James Cameron's Avatar. But 20 years ago. Was it really 20 years ago? My God, 20 years ago. So yeah, a lot of you probably aren't familiar with it. But Avatar: The Last Airbender is coming back with series and then also with theatrical releases. So that's what I want to talk about. That's the last thing I want to talk about in this category. And that's that I'm really excited to see adult animation. Let me bring up the poster again on this. Adult animation thriving. It had its moment during the pandemic, thriving in the West. It's always been very popular in the East. And I thought for a minute it was going to break through during the pandemic. We had Blood of Zeus, Arcane, like incredible adult animated, and Castlevania. We were going crazy. But then there were scandals, and then in fact, animation became so popular, I'd even heard that Game of Thrones was thinking of doing an animated series, which would have been a tremendous idea. But there was a run on animation houses. And that was a problem not only because so many people wanted to do animated series all of a sudden. Oh yeah, Blue Eye Samurai. I mean, these shows are incredible. X-Men 97, The Bad Batch. I mean, there's just like incredible adult animation. And the pandemic, I think, people were working from home, and that's why all these shows were so delayed with their follow-up seasons. Yeah, Batman Cape Crusader, thank you. Oh, Zeke, you're back. But yeah, I mean, really, Rashad, Klaus, throwing in Young Justice in there, man. But yeah, like these were incredible shows, but they were really suffering in the ratings as of late, and people just kind of seemed to go away from them. So to see Invincible come back so hard makes me very excited. I mean, I was very upset that War of the Rohirrim, the animated movie from Lord of the Rings that went to theaters, awful stuff. And I was worried that, Hollywood would not still make a push for theatrical releases. Well, Avatar is releasing like 3 movies. They're planned for theaters. And I got to tell you, I think Invincible is so incredible that they could consider doing maybe a movie. Seth Rogen's the producer here. I think that they're building enough of a fandom that they could probably do a theatrical release. And I think people would go. I mean, if I were Amazon, I'd even say, well, I mean, they're already working on season 4. But I would be like, can season 5 be a movie? Like, and we give you a little more money for better animation and you go for a movie? I mean, that would be incredible. Mike Hill, what are they making a game of? Invincible? I'm just waiting for Mike Hill's answer. Adam Sphere says, how many seasons of Invincible will they do? They have so much. They could do so many seasons for Invincible. What are they on, 3? They could do like, they could be only halfway done. Oh, Invincible. Thank you, Mike Hill. Yeah, they're doing an Invincible video game, apparently. That's incredible. I mean, that's amazing. I don't think Adam Sphere, they can't do 15 more seasons. They can't do 15 seasons of Invincible. But, I mean, maybe if Robert Kirkman started writing new material. By the way, side note, I just want to say, if you don't read Saga could be an animated adult series from Brian K. Vaughan. He's never wanted to have it go to be adapted from Image Comics, but Saga would be an incredible series and would be this popular because it's a little bit like X-Men-y. It's very dramatic. I'm glad to see so many Saga fans in the comments. By the way, if you want to read Saga, please do, but please note, oh yeah, Fables. Klaus, I hope someday we get Fables. Fables is probably also as good as Invincible. But Saga is extremely adult. Like, it's a hard R. It's like an HBO show. If HBO ever wanted to do an animated series or live action, they could do Saga. Although Saga takes place in space, and I don't know if they could afford it. So an animated series, that would be great. In fact. Oh, thanks, Roman, for suggesting my comic, Superbia. I really appreciate it. That's very sweet of you. But yeah, that's right, Amy G. Don't read Fables or Saga on an airplane. That happened to me. I never read Fables before. Fables is also very adult. And I was like, oh, everybody's talking. And I was very little at the point. So I was like, oh, everyone's talking about, I mean, I still could read Fables. But I was like, oh, everyone's talking about Fables. I should read it. And I cracked it open and I was like, oh my God. I was like, okay, don't look over my shoulder and see what I'm reading. I'm so happy so many of you have read Superbia. That's the comic book that I wrote for Boom Studios. It went for 16 issues. That's very sweet of you. Thank you guys for checking that out. I'm very proud of it. Okay. All right. I remember when I wrote it, because Game of Thrones was very popular and it's Desperate Housewives for superheroes, but with more action. But I saw how popular Game of Thrones was, and at the top of my outlines, I'd always written, sex and action and violence. I was like, I see what sells. I'm paying attention. And so I would always make sure I tried to include stuff like that in each issue of Superbia. Okay, all right. It's available on Comixology. You can read it on the Comixology app. Okay. That's right, Faye. I had my business hat on. I did. Does anybody have any questions or comments about this story before we get to the next one? Oh, Jose, I would like a Wonder Woman animated show. That's a good idea. Oh, you guys are very sweet. Thank you. Adam Sphere, you get it from the library? That sounds so cozy and wonderful. You just made me very happy. Danny, I'm not going to do a full season review of Invincible. This is it. But I will cover the next season because now it's popular again. Oh, yeah, Steve, I've written a lot of comics. I've written for both Marvel and DC. Very proud of that. And I used to write for Warcraft and, stuff for Tokyo Pop. Went out of business, unfortunately. That's where I got my start. And I did you can just check it out on comic. Most of them are on Comixology, I think. Oh, Ninja Twink. That's a great name. I love that you got a membership. Mystic, I really didn't like the last season of Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy. I mean, I love them as a couple, and I've loved the show for the most part, but I thought the last season was disappointing. Ramsey says, should they do Invincible spin-offs? I wouldn't. They're in a hot place right now, finally back again. I would keep everybody's focus just on the show as is. And I would do a movie. I would really do an Invincible movie. Not live action. I would do an animated movie. Because they could never afford, I mean, I don't know, if they spent the $8 billion on it, they could. But it's such an action-heavy show. Let's see here. Marky Mark, I think I wrote an X-Men like short story that was in like one of those like groups of stories in a comic. But I did write something with She-Hulk and the Wasp and Aquagirl. Namorita. No, I'm sorry, Aquagirl is DC. It's been a minute. Let's see here. Noel says, have you seen any anime? The hype for Invincible is similar to it. I've seen a little bit of anime. I've seen like Akira, things like that. I watched Ghost in the Shell when the movie was coming out, and I thought Ghost in the Shell was actually excellent now that I think about it. I haven't thought about that in a while. Poke, what did I do for DC? I wrote a comic with Joker and Harley Quinn in the Justice League. It was for the animated series, and I wrote a comic about Joker and Harley Quinn crashing the Justice League watchtower. I'm very proud of that comic. I had actually, my parents got it framed for me, but because of the mold that I had many years ago, I lost that. And so that was really unfortunate. Oh, that's right, Cowboy Bebop. I did watch Cowboy Bebop as well. That was excellent as well. Okay. Marky Mark, that's right. Yeah, Marvel Unlimited, that's what it was. Oh, I am on the app? Oh, that's great, yeah. I'm glad some of you are discovering I used to write comics. Yeah, writing comics is like a full-time gig, and so I just didn't have the bandwidth. And then also, as someone who covers the industry, I think they're not too keen on press writing for comics. Like I was supposed to actually be a new DC writer, but then they felt like because I wrote for comics, like I went to like a seminar, like a training camp over there and everything. But then they were very nice about it, but they're like, we can't really do it if you're a journalist. And I was like, all right, peace out. Okay. Side story. I guess I partially wasn't too upset about it because I'd had some bad experiences, just of like the editorial kind. Like one of the reasons, I'll tell you this one little quick story. Side note, let's go on a little detour. So I'm a very superstitious person, and I'm a big believer of the jinx. And I used to go to comic book conventions, and you have to sell yourself. And so they're like, what are you working on? What are you doing? What do you got coming up? And so I had I was going to write a short story I think I've told, some of you might have heard this story, but I'm telling it again. And I had gotten a gig to write a story in the upcoming DC Halloween special. Very excited about it. And so an editor was like, what are you working on? And I was like, well, I've already turned in the script and it's been approved. So, I think it's okay to bring it up. So I told somebody about it. And then a couple of weeks later, I get a call from the editor that I was working with, and they're like, bad news. So because we had you rework the story and go in a different direction, we didn't give the new script that you finished to the artist. So he's already been drawing the old story, and it's too late for him to do in the new one and make it in time, so your story's cut from the comic. And I was like, what kind of unprofessional bullshit is this? So I was pretty upset about that. And then also I was upset, well, not upset, but let's just say disenchanted, because I had been pitching a story to an editor, someone pretty high up actually. And I was like, you know what I'd like to do? I'd like to tell a Harley Quinn and Deadshot story. And the editor looked at me point blank and actually said, are they dating? And had no idea that they just put them together in the Suicide Squad comic, which had just come out. And I was like, are you reading your own material? And even if you don't, I'm not referencing some small fringe comic in DC. I'm referencing one of the main comics that's gotten a lot of attention. And it was a very big change that I would think you had approved. So I kind of felt like it was kind of weird over there. So I was like, okay, if I have to choose, I mean, I obviously would have loved to have done it, but, I was like, okay, peace out. Good luck, everybody. All right. Simi knows the jinx, too. The jinx is real. Okay. So let's go to the next story, the final story, and then we'll do the Q&A. Where'd my arrow go? All right. Boom, baby. Aw, sad boom. Speaking of animation, Tiana, the animated series, was canceled. I think late last week, actually. So we're talking about it now, though. All right. So I feel very bad that this show was canceled. I am a big Princess and the Frog fan. Princess and the Frog was the last 2D animated movie to come from Disney. And for quite a while, this and Tangled were the only movies they ever had playing anywhere in libraries. If you were on an airplane, in a hotel room, you watched Tangled and you watched Princess and the Frog. I, in fact, remember that at the beginning of the pandemic, I was in Los Angeles and I had to be sequestered to my room until my flight. And I watched Princess and the Frog. It was one of the things that I watched on the hotel TV. And it's just an incredible, let's bring up the poster because it's so great. It's just, where'd it go? It's such an incredible movie. It's just really nice. It has great music, great songs, great animation. It's wonderful. So it has a lot of fans, and Disney's been trying to do something with it, and they keep messing up. So obviously there's a real reckoning with what Disney Plus, the damage that it's doing to theatrical. So, for instance, Captain America 4 fell flat on its face because nobody saw Falcon and Winter Soldier. Falcon and Winter Soldier had good ratings, but apparently people forgot about it, or something happened and it was a problem. And even if people, one of their chief complaints was, I don't remember any of this happening. So that was a real problem with Captain America 4. Then you had Moana 2, which was supposed to be another Disney Plus series. It's Bob Iger, when he came back, said, throw it up on the screen. Made $1 billion. So I think that in combination with what happened to, I'll bring back the Tiana poster, but what happened to Pixar, it took Pixar a very long time to recover from going exclusively to Disney Plus. They only just did finally with Inside Out, although it looks like they're going to have another dip with Elio. So I think that they're starting to get very nervous, and I think that the Disney divisions are starting to be like, well, we are making the studio happy by helping out Disney Plus, by providing it with content, but then it's really coming back to bite us in the butt with our theatrical releases. So on that note, let me move the arrow to where we're going. So the Tiana series, when it was canceled, that was the reason actually given. They said canceled as Walt Disney Animation abandons long-form streaming content. So they're really not trying to make any long-form content for the Disney Plus streaming service. Now, some of you have mentioned, especially when I tweeted this out, that they are going to do a Tiana special. Obviously, it's not going to be the length that the series was supposed to be. And, I don't think that Anika Noni Rose would be saying she was so sad if they were going to have a really amazing special coming up. So I think, she's very vocal about this, as she should be, because she's, of course, for those of you who don't know, the voice of Tiana. So I'm surprised they didn't just throw it up on the big screen like Moana. Maybe they felt that 2D animation wouldn't have done as well. I think it's really a mistake to do this. I'm pretty upset about it. All right, so let's talk about the way that Disney has mishandled. It's not a good time for Disney princesses right now. Let's talk about the ways they have mishandled the character. So let me bring the poster back up just so you can see what Princess and the Frog is supposed to be. All right, so obviously they decided to redo Splash Mountain as Tiana's Bayou Adventure. Now, I thought this was a good idea at first. I really think that it's great for Tiana to have a ride. People in the South are really big fans of Splash Mountain. I don't like getting all wet when I'm at the theme park, so I don't like to ride the water rides. So I'm not a big Splash Mountain fan. But I do love Disney princesses, so I was really excited to ride this ride with the new theming. Because I'm a Tiana fan, I'm a Disney princess fan, and I'm a theme park fan. And also, Song of the South is like really, really problematic. So I can understand wanting to move away from that. Now, unfortunately, I don't understand why it wasn't just like every other ride that they do, where they recreated the magic of the movie. Like the new Frozen ride isn't about Elsa planning a party. So why is the new Tiana ride about her getting cooking ingredients in the bayou? Like, why don't you just do the movie? Like, why would you lose Dr. Facilier and Friends on the Other Side, which is one of the greatest Disney villain songs of all time? It was so bizarre to me. And they're like, oh, now you're very small and you're looking for her herbs and spices. And I'm like, whose dumb idea was this? Like, it was really, I don't understand why it's just not this movie, but as a ride. So I thought that was weird. Also, unfortunately, the ride, to hear tell, I haven't been on it yet, keeps breaking. And so sometimes the animatronics, they're supposed to be very advanced animatronics, but sometimes they're not moving. There's just a lot of technical difficulties. Sometimes the ride isn't in operation. So they just have a problem. That's right, Alberto. Dr. Facilia, yeah, isn't in the ride at all, which is like the dumbest choice I've ever heard, especially because he's always featured on Disney Villains Nights because he's so popular. So the fact that he's not featured in the ride, I think, is a huge, huge mistake. Then I did like the fact that they gave her a restaurant at Disneyland because she has a restaurant in the movies, and we see her cooking all the time. Let me taste it. So I thought it was really wonderful when I heard they were going to do a restaurant. Now, unfortunately, Disney is doing this thing where they constantly reskin stuff. I'm not a fan of it because they take away stuff that people like and give them something, and then that new thing is always undercut by people missing what they liked. Like, as much as I enjoy the Frozen ride, I'll always miss the Norway ride, and it'll always make me a little sad when I go on it. Now, the restaurant is, they just reskinned one of the restaurants at Disneyland, and they didn't take the time to build Tiana's Palace from the frickin' movie. This looks kind of good. I mean, luckily they had New Orleans Square, which fits in very nicely. But it's and then this is what it looks like inside. It's a buffet. I'm glad to hear that one of you said there, Rajiv said the food was quite good. I'm glad to hear that. That's great. So they have this restaurant, and it's it's like a cafeteria kind of, which I have nothing against. I'm a big fan of Disney cafeterias, and I in fact missed when the Crystal Palace was that way. Atmosphere, I have not been to Disney World or Disneyland since they opened these attractions, so I haven't seen the new Tiana ride myself. But yeah, I wish that Tiana had a restaurant at the level of the Bell restaurant, the Be Our Guest restaurant, and the new Fantasyland, where they built a new restaurant where you feel like you're actually entering the Beast's palace or castle, and it gets all the respect that it's supposed to. I wish that Tiana got a restaurant to the same degree, because I think it would be, a really popular, I mean, I'm sure this one does okay, but I think it would be a lot more popular if they took made that kind of an effort. And also, Elise wants to know if it's Cajun food. For some reason, they put lemon curd in the beignets. I've never heard of anything in beignets. I think maybe sometimes they might have strawberry jam in them, and sometimes they have stuff on the outside of the beignet, but they don't even offer a regular beignet, which is annoying to me. I'm like, I want it like the movie. And I didn't see her making a lemon beignet. I just saw her making a regular beignet. I want a Tiana classic beignet. Why is there lemon curd in this? So it bothers me quite a bit. Oh, they have a plain one? Good. Good. All right, so let's talk about Disney and diversity for a second. I really think it's important, as I've always said, for what's up on screen to reflect who's in the audience. And I know some of you are against that, which is weird to me. But, not everything has to be for everybody if you have responsible budgets and things like that. But I do think that I think it's shown and been proven that when the quality is there, these projects are not mired in the same toxicity that the lesser quality projects are. Like if The Acolyte had been really incredible, if Obi-Wan had been an amazing show, I don't think that it would have had those things would have had the issues at least to the degree that they did. Because look at things like Barbie, which are able to rise above it. And some people, I don't know who could dislike Zendaya, but some people complain about her version of MJ, but yet the Spider-Man movies are still incredibly popular. So I think that it's, I'm frustrated that, the projects that Disney, where they are spotlighting diverse talent, aren't better projects or handled better. I mean, I really am glad that Disney is working so hard to promote Tiana and to have her presence felt in the parks, because truth be told, she's a princess that particularly means a lot to people who are visiting the parks worldwide to see a black princess up there in the full dress, like in the full ball gown up there doing the Disney princess thing. And I see, just like it was important for people to see Rey in Star Wars, to see a female Jedi, which is, I think, really great. But again, these are things that, if you're going to do these things, you have to be really careful and really protect them. And I think that's an element that Disney is missing from this approach. Kiki says, your Disney Parks analysis. Thank you. It is as good or better than your movie talk. That's very sweet of you. If I were to do a proper Disney Parks channel, though, I'd have to be traveling all the time. A lot of people who do that either live in Orlando or in the Los Angeles, Anaheim area, so they can keep going all the time to those parks and do the recording. But I'm glad you like my Disney Parks analysis. I'm a big Disney Park fan. And as Adam Sphere points out, it was frustrating for a lot of people that for most of this movie, she was a frog. And so one of the great things about the Tiana animated series is that she was going to be a human throughout the show. And I think if they have a special and she somehow gets turned back into a frog, Disney's not going to hear the end of it, nor should they, because that would be really bad. All right, does anybody have any questions or comments about this story before we get to the Q&A? Oh, Rajiv was just at Disney. Elia, you live near a Disney theme park? Very lucky. That's right, Adam Sphere. I mean, some of these things, I think Hollywood still, for all the effort that they're making, still has not a great track record. Oh, African Children Media, your family's from NOLA? That's wonderful. New Orleans. I'm so glad that it seems to have bounced back from Katrina. Elise, yeah, she kissed a frog and turned into a frog. Shenanigans. It's a very good movie. Doc Hayes says, as a Canadian, I love Splash Mountain. Let me tell you, if you go on Splash Mountain, if you do go, or are now on Tiana's Bayou Adventure, if you're in the front row, and if you bend down to not get splashed, the person sitting next to you will get splashed even more. That's been, to my experience, and I always feel bad about it. I'm like, I don't want to get wet. And then I look to the side, and my family member is just soaked. And I'm like, sorry. Let's see here. Green Lantern's Light says, this is so sad. I wish these execs would grasp the true importance of Tiana's role to all communities of color. Yeah, I mean, look what they're doing for Encanto. Why isn't Tiana getting the same love? That's right, Garnet Fire. There was a lot of controversy over having her have a prince from the Middle East region instead of a black prince. I mean, he's from a made-up country anyway. Why couldn't it have been a black prince? But I like Naveen. I think he's a great character. Even J. Jonah Jameson likes Princess and the Frog. It's a good movie if J. Jonah Jameson likes it. That's fantastic. And that's right, Ben 10. The Princess and the Frog has some of the best Disney songs. I mean, it's up there with the best Disney stuff. It's really good. So it's so weird that they don't use those on the ride. All right, I think we're good for the Q&A. But yeah, if you haven't watched Princess and the Frog, strong recommend. It's really an incredible movie. It's on Disney Plus. You can watch it for free if you have Disney Plus. All right, Q&A time, baby. 10 minutes until, well, I'm a little short on time today. Let's do 5 minutes. I'm sorry I started a little late. That's on me. But we got 3 streams. So let's do 5 minutes Q&A until 2:14. Alvaro says, hi, Grace. Do you think that Disney Parks' response to Epic Universe is appropriate, or is Disney not doing enough? Well, you know, it's funny. I'm glad you bring that up. What was I going to say? Oh, yeah. It's funny that you bring that up because the amount of money that Amazon spent basically to buy Bond is what Universal has spent on Epic Universe. It's about maybe $1 billion apart, but I think $7 billion for Epic Universe. And they're really trying to drink Disney's milkshake. They're like, will this $7 billion straw be enough? And I think it might. And I think it finally is something that has pushed Disney to stop reskinning attractions. And that's why when they were just at South by Southwest, they were presenting a lot of new ride technology. I hope it works, although they're having a lot of technical difficulties at Epic Universe as well, it seems, even though they haven't officially opened yet. But yeah, you know, this new roller coaster for Monsters, Inc. seems really cool. And I think the new Tony Stark thing seems great. Although I'm like, why are we talking about Tony Stark? Robert Downey Jr. is Doom. Okay, let's see here. Faces, do you think Disney Plus will be around for much longer? I think it will. That's a great question, Faye. I love your contributions today, Faye. I think it will. I think that it's big. I mean, it's just, people are subscribed to it, and that's just instant money every month for Disney. They're not going to want that to go away. But I think that what it is will change significantly. I think you're going to see happen what we've been saying should happen. And that's you're going to see more content, like, say, Percy Jackson, which is just Disney Plus. I think you're going to see less, especially if the Mandalorian and Grogu has a problem. I think you're going to see less trying to have franchises be in both worlds. I think that didn't work. I'm going out to dinner tonight, Danny. Why did I say Damish? I got very little sleep last night. I'm sorry. Oh, Hamish was right below. I got very little sleep last night. I'm having trouble getting to sleep on time, and I have to get up early for work. And so I'm burning the candle at both ends. Hamish says, Grace, I've just finished level 2 of improv classes. Level 3 is all about game. Any tips going forward from your improv days? You guys are doing all the classic Grace stuff today. I think for improv, always remember to listen, obviously, yes, and. You want to be a good team player because then no one will want to do improv with you. I think it's really important as an improv comedian to develop a bag of tricks. You know, your go-to moves, you know, that you can like make sure you have good accent work. I mean, I did a lot of accent work. Develop characters, you know, and characters that were going to get suggested. Like, I used to do like a little grandma, you know, like, well, let's see what's happening now. You know, and I would always do like La Revolution, you know, like things that would get a quick laugh. And also if you stick ye in front of anything, it does really well. Like I think one of my greatest jokes was we were doing a Christmas Carol improv thing, and I did ye old gynecologist's office. And that got a big laugh. You know, I'm sure you have to be in the moment. Improv is very funny because a lot of it is the surprise of the joke. It's not, it's in the moment coming up with that and surprising people. But improv, I really love improv. I hope that's helpful. Let's see here. Sarah, I don't watch The Pit, but thank you for the recommendation. I can't, I'm under embargo. I just watched a very bad show. I binged it because I was so into it, and then I was like, oh, this is not good. I don't like it. It was very nicely shot, though. Bjorn says, hi, Grace. We just got our first yes for festival submissions, and our animated short will premiere in Greece. Wow, that's incredible. That's so great. Oh, that's awesome. Sure, you can send me the link. I don't know when I'm going to have time to watch it, but just, remember the squeaky wheel gets the grease, but, be always you want to be a polite squeak, not a, oh, God, I got to get rid of this wheel. So there's a trick to it. Sean says, what are the thoughts on the Daniel Craig Narnia rumor? I think that's a great choice. I think he'd be wonderful for that. I think it's really, really strong. And then Billy says, what are you seeing this weekend? Also celebrating my birthday in St. Croix recently and watched you during rainy days. I'm glad I could keep you company, Billy. Sorry it rained a little bit on your trip, but it sounds like otherwise you had a good time. What am I seeing this weekend? I think I'm going to see Novocaine again. Let me see here. Hey, Caitlin. It's so nice to hear from you in Romania. I'm glad you're a member of this community as well. As far as Heartstopper Season 4 goes, I don't think that those actors even want to do it anymore. I think Kit Connor, he's like definitely like doesn't want to do it anymore, I don't think. Noel says, what did you think of the action and violence in The Last of Us 2 cutscenes? I loved it. I absolutely adored The Last of Us Part 2. I think it's a real work of art. Now I can be like you and be angry when they change things. How dare you? Timodoc says, any fun plans for the St. Patrick's Day weekend? But that's really good. That's a good point. The Last of Us changes stuff or goes more in depth on certain things. And that's why I think it can coexist with the games and be its own thing. And that's a good lesson maybe for Invincible. When is St. Patrick's Day? Is it on Monday? Maybe I'll try and see the parade. And then Chandler says, does Disney's decision have an impact on the Young Avengers? Maybe. Let's see what happens. Let's see what happens with that. All right, I'm a minute over because I love talking to you guys. All right, I have to go. I have a meeting. So I'm so sorry. I love talking to you. I'm glad we were able to do 3 streams this week. I can't wait to start up. Next week's going to be a fun week. Next week is Snow White week. So either way, we're going to at least have a good time talking about it. So they released all the trailers this week, though, for some reason. But next week is not only Snow White, but the Severance season finale. And I will be doing a spoiler review for Severance. All right, everybody, have a great weekend. And actually, there's content going up, though. There is a Black Bag review going up in a few hours. And then I'm going to put up an interview tomorrow. And then I'll see you on Sunday for Movie Math.